Okay, tonight Carla, Diane, everybody else who's watching, making homemade wontons and then cooking them in three different variations: wonton soup, steamed dumplings, and fried wontons. And here's how we're going to do it. Okay, getting started with the wontons. Obviously, we're going to need some wonton wrappers. I've got 2 packages of these. You find these in the produce section with the vegetables. There's a whole bunch of those in there. I'm making a whole bunch of wontons today. We're going to use some shrimp. This is raw shrimp that's been peeled, deveined, tails off, and dried with the paper towel once it's done. We're going to need some pork. We're going to need some eggs. Got a few green onions, scallions there that we're going to use. A little bit of chili oil. This is optional. If you don't want to use it, if you don't want the heat, that's fine. You're going to need a couple of cans of water chestnuts, either sliced or whole, doesn't matter. These are getting chopped up. You will need some sesame oil, teriyaki sauce. Going to use a little bit of 5-spice powder, which is literally 5 spices that are ground up together. Used a lot in Oriental cooking. Some hoisin sauce. Some baby corn that I'm going to throw into the wonton soup just to add something to it. I've got some shiitake mushrooms. Some of these are going into the wontons themselves. Some of these are going to go into the soup. Some salt. Some pepper. We're going to need some cornstarch. I've got some snow peas that these are optional. I'm just going to throw these into the soup as well, just so the soup will have a little bit more to it than just the wontons. What have I missed? Oh, chicken broth. We need chicken broth for the soup and a little bit of sugar. So let's get started. All right, I'm going to start off with the pork here, and basically what we're going to do is we're going to grind the pork. And you can either do this in a food processor, or if you have a food grinder, meat grinder, you can use that. I do have a meat grinder, but I'm going to use this because I figure more people have a food processor than a meat grinder. And the reason you don't just buy ground pork at the grocery store and use that is because ground pork that you buy at the grocery store has way too much fat in it. And we don't want that. So I'm just going to cut this into some chunks. And then it's going to go into the food processor, and we're going to grind it up that way. I'm trying to avoid the fatty stuff on here. Trying to avoid too much fat in my diet because, don't want to gain weight before the wedding. So it's okay if you get a little bit of fat in there, it'll be fine. And if you're doing this in the food processor, you're going to do each ingredient separately. So I'm going to do the pork, grind that up, then I'll do the shrimp, and then I'll do the other ingredients. If you're using a food grinder or meat grinder, you can throw everything in at one time. It'll be fine. Basically, we're just making the filling for the wontons here. Trim the fat off that. Alright, I'm going to finish cutting these up and then we'll be right back and we'll grind the pork. Alright, got the pork cut up into the food processor. Got my cutting board washed and cleaned, and my knife too. So for those wondering, yeah, I do wash everything between stuff that I cut up. So I'm going to process this, and that's going to go into this big bowl. Then we'll do the shrimp, and then we'll do the other ingredients and keep moving along. So let's go ahead and do the pork. See how that looks. Maybe get it a little bit more. I kind of want this finely cut up. Alright, that'll probably do. Alright, so take that out. So you go into a big bowl over here. Okay. Shrimp will be a little bit easier because I don't have to cut it up into little pieces. So I'm just going to take the shrimp, put that in here, grind that up. Alright, that's probably good for the shrimp. Fingers here. All right, let me wash this out and then we'll move on with the vegetable portions and we'll be right back. Okay, so on to the vegetable portion here. We need a couple of cans of the water chestnuts. These are already sliced, which is fine. You're just gonna drop those in there. All right, like such. And do a couple of green onions. Slice that pretty fine. They're going to get chopped anyway, but I'm going to slice them fine anyway. We're going to add it to this. probably good right there. Toss those in. Alright, then the shiitake mushrooms. I'm not going to use all of these because some of these are going into the soup itself and some of these are going into the wontons. Now, think about shiitake mushrooms. These are fresh, by the way. You don't use the stems, so you always remove the stems from the shiitake mushrooms. You only use the caps of them. So you grab a couple of these, remove the stems, toss those away. Cut these up into some chunks. The others I'll cut up fairly thinly and put into the soup itself, along with the snow peas and the corn. Shiitake mushrooms have a nice, almost a meaty texture and flavor to them when they're cooked, so they're good to add to this. If you can't find fresh shiitake mushrooms, you can get the dried version. Using the dried ones, just soak them in hot water for, I don't know, maybe about 30 minutes in hot water. And then again, take the stems off and then just slice them up and they'll be just fine. And you're probably thinking this is going to make a lot of wontons, and it is. But that's okay, because the nice thing about wontons, once you get them made, is you can freeze them and then use them later. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to make a big batch of these, and some of these are going to get frozen, so I can pull them out later and make wonton soup whenever I want to without having to make the wontons all over again. Maybe one more good one. Wonton soup is one of Joseph's favorites. It's also one of mine. Wonton soup is my second favorite Oriental soup. My favorite being one that I can't find a recipe for yet, and I'm looking for it. It's called shredded pork and pickled cabbage soup. There was used to be a restaurant in Savannah when I lived there years ago, and they did that soup, and it's shredded pork and basically fermented cabbage, and it's a spicy soup. Really, really good. And still trying to find a recipe for that, so if anyone knows of a recipe for shredded pork pickled cabbage soup, let me know. Alright, that's probably good. So I'll throw that in there. Get the cutting board out of the way now. This a spin. Okay. Tap that down. That's looking better. Alright, this is going to go into the big bowl here. Along with the shrimp and the pork. And I'm probably gonna need a spoon. I need a spoon anyway, so. Alright, done with that. Alright, so we give this a mix. Try and get these all mixed up. I might end up having to use my fingers for this. Who knows? Yeah, I probably will have to use my fingers on this. But before I do that, I need to add a couple more ingredients to this. Put glasses on so I can read here. We're going to need 2 eggs that are beaten. So, do that. It's going to kind of serve as a binder, keep everything together. Alright, so here we go. 2 beaten eggs. Alright, in addition to that, we need 6 tablespoons of cornstarch to go into this. Measuring spoon out. Spread that around a little bit. Again, this will help hold things together. I'm thinking 4 might do. 4 tablespoons might be enough there in this case. We'll try that. Right. There's the cornstarch. Need 2 teaspoons of sugar. Teaspoon. Grab that. Okay, there's the sugar. 2 teaspoons of salt. There's my salt. And that's just kosher salt right there. You need about a half a teaspoon of, I get my lid back on that, black pepper. I'm just going to give that a couple of grinds there. Probably good. Okay. 2 tablespoons of teriyaki. Two tablespoons of the sesame oil. Okay, I'm going to add to that 1 good tablespoon of hoisin sauce. Actually, let's try a good spoonful. And I'm going to put a little sprinkling of 5-spice powder in here, not too much. It's probably good right there. Don't want to use too much of 5-spice powder. A little bit goes a long way. Alright, so then we're just going to mix this up now. Or try to mix it up. See if I can do this with a spoon. That's doing better now. Okay, it smells pretty good too. Not even cooked yet. Alright, so once we get that mixed up, this is going to get covered. It's going to go in the refrigerator for 30 minutes to chill. And then once that's chilled, we'll start making the actual wontons themselves. So we'll be back in about 30 minutes. Alright, it is time to start actually making the wontons. So I've got a package of wontons wrappers here. By the way, wonton wrappers come in both square shapes and round shapes. I'm using the square shapes today. And what we do is we take one off of here, and I've got a damp paper towel that I'm going to lay over this because you don't want your wonton skins to dry out. Otherwise they'll get brittle and you wind up with little mosaic pieces of wonton skins that are no good to you. So got the skin laid out there. Going to take a small amount of the filling, and this is probably going to get messy, but yeah, that's me. Alright, right into the center, like that. And then, got a bowl with some beaten up egg whites in here. That's basically going to be my glue, and I may have gotten too much filling in there. We'll find out. Basically, we're going to use this as our glue, and just brush this along the edges to help it stick. You can use egg whites or you can use water. Either one, doesn't matter. Alright, let's give this a shot and see how this works. Take one end, fold it over to the other, like so. Seal the sides. And yeah, I think that's probably, yeah, that's too much stuffing. I need to go smaller on the next one. But hey, live and learn. Alright, so basically we have a triangle there. That's fine. When I cook this one, I'll give it to the dog. She won't know the difference. That's basically all you have to do. Now, there's different shapes you can put these into, because this one is like overstuffed. I'm not going to try and bend it, so I'm going to leave this one as is and just throw this onto the wax paper over here. I need someone to clean up after me here in the kitchen. Alright, grab another skin. Let's try this. Smaller amount of filling. Into the center, about like that. Let's see if that works better. Different shapes you can do with wonton skins. You've seen them the traditional way if you've ever gotten wonton soup at a restaurant, where they're kind of curled up and all that. You can do dumpling style, where they're all four corners are brought together. But just go online and look at wontons and you will see there's like a whole variety of different shapes to do. So you can do that way, and then if you want to do dumpling style, bring these up to the middle. And I am going to do some of these as dumplings, so I'll go ahead and do this one dumpling style. Okay, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but it doesn't matter. It's going to taste good. So that way, that'll go into the steamer. We'll steam that as a dumpling. Make sure my edges are sealed there. And we just keep repeating this process. Let's see if I can get one done the traditional style. Use a small amount of filling. Glue my edges. Like I said, you can use egg wash or water, doesn't matter. Alright, fold it over. Basically, we're doing wonton origami. Make sure my edges are sealed nice and tight. Don't want leakage. Alright, and then we take the corners. I think you're supposed to poke it in the middle like that. Bring the corner around. Use my finger, pardon my fingers, like that. Seal that together, and that gives you the more traditional wonton shape that you're probably used to seeing. Again, usually going on to the wax paper. That one will probably go into the soup. Let's see if I can do another one like that. My dog is totally fascinated with this right now. If you could see the look on her face. She's probably hoping to get some. She probably will get a dumpling later on tonight after I cook some, because she's been a good girl. And she's so patient. Alright, glue my edges. Let's see if I can make this one pretty. Alright, that corner to that corner, like that. Then seal the edges, like so. Like that, nice little triangle. Alright, then kind of poke the bottom with your thumb. And once you do that, bring your two edges around. Stick those together like that, and there you go. There's a wonton you can be proud of. So I'm gonna make a whole bunch of these, obviously, because I have a whole bowl full of wonton mixture. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna cook these in 3 different ways actually tonight. We're gonna make wonton soup, obviously, and I already added the snow peas and the mushrooms to the chicken stock. That's just sitting in warm right now. We'll bring it up to boil later. I'm going to steam some as dumplings. I'm also going to do some fried wontons. So we're making wontons. We're going to cook them 3 different ways. But not eating all of this tonight, obviously, because the great thing about wontons is you can freeze them. And what you do to freeze them, once you get your wontons made, you put them on the wax paper on the cookie sheet, throw them in the freezer, let them freeze, get solid, and then once they're frozen, just put them in a like a Ziploc freezer bag and freeze them, and then you have wontons ready to make soup or to fry or whatever, anytime you want. So a bunch of these are actually going to go in the freezer, so I can use them at a later date. Glue my edges down there. And that way, next time I want wonton soup, I don't have to go through the process of making wontons all over again. They'll already be made. Oh, it doesn't get any better than that. Alright. Seal my edges. Nice and tight like that. Nice whole triangle. Pick it up. Poke it in the bottom. That's not a euphemism. Alright. Take the two edges, bring them over. A little bit of glue there to seal that. Oh, my corner's coming unsealed. Okay, like so. Alright, so there's another wonton in the making. That might make a good steam one right there. So I'm going to keep doing this, obviously, for quite a while. And when I get done making all these, we're going to come back and we're going to start cooking these. And I'll show you what you can do with all the wontons that you've just made. Alright, so on the stove top, I've got in this pot the chicken broth, the mushrooms, the snow peas. I've brought that to a boil, and I'm going to take the wontons that I made for that and just drop them in, and they're going to cook for a bit. Lower my temperature, but that's okay. And you can do this the traditional way with just the chicken broth without the vegetables in it. I just felt like I needed some fiber today, so that's why I'm doing this. Bring the heat back up now. Just tossing the wontons into the pot. And then I'll put the lid back on and let those cook. Hopefully I can do this without spillage. Alright, one more. It's ready to go. Put the lid back on that. Let that cook for a bit. Now over here in the steamer, on the far side of the stove, I've got water boiling. I've got a steamer basket. If you're going to steam the wontons, always make sure you use a non-stick spray in your steamer basket, because you don't want them to stick. And I'm just going to sit these on here, and these are going to steam for about 15 to 20 minutes. These are kind of on the small side. It might not take that long. So basically we'll have some steamed dumplings. Pauline's hoping for a steamed dumpling. She really is. Alright. Put those in there. And let those steam. Alright, then on the other side, I'll move the camera. We're going to do the last batch of fried wontons. Okay, over in the multi-cooker I've got some hot oil, and got it at, I got it set at 395 degrees. And I'm just going to drop these in here, and again I'm use some different shapes, just experimenting with different shapes on those. We're going to fry those up, so we'll have those as like snacky appetizers. These won't take long to cook at all. Alright, I'll put the lid on that. We'll come back to these in just a moment. Alright, the wontons are about ready. They're nice and golden brown, so I'm going to unplug that. Take these out and let these drain, cool off a little bit while the other wontons are getting ready. Kind of liking the square shapes on these. I'll do that again in the future. My tongs to cooperate. There we go. Alright, so there we go. Those are going to cool off and drain for a little bit while the other stuff's finishing up, and then we'll be back and get ready to eat. So here we are finished up. We got the final products here. Starting off with the wonton soup with a whole bunch of wontons in it. Some baby corn, chicken broth, and some snow peas, and of course the mushrooms in it. So we have that. Then moving over, we've got the steamed wonton dumpling style with a little bit of teriyaki dipping sauce in that. Pauline's going to enjoy that momentarily. And then over here we have the fried wontons, and I'm serving with a little bit of Chinese hot mustard and a little sweet and sour dipping sauce for those three. So wontons served up 3 different ways, and easy to do, a little bit time consuming, I will tell you that. Took longer than I thought, but I think it's well worth the effort. Plus you can freeze them and save them for later. So there you go. I hope you all enjoyed this.